Awesome. Welcome to Pathways to Breaking the Cycle. And I'm super excited, as always, to sit on the panel with you guys. We have Tracy from Stronger Together, Never Alone. She is the vice president. And we have Janice. And Janice has worked in corrections and is going to share with us a lot of her experiences behind the walls. And then we also have Robert, who has done time, who has experience behind the walls as well, but on the other side. Welcome, you guys. I'm so happy to be here with you all. Tracy, let's just start with you, just to introduce yourself and just what you do. I mean, obviously, I already told the panel your name, but if you want to just tell us a little bit about what you do.
So, Stronger Together, Never Alone we started as a juvenile parent support group for kids within the detention center. But now our kids have all moved on to the Department of Corrections. So we've grown. We
Right.
support whoever, anybody, and sit in courtrooms, talk on the phone, help families just understand everything that they're walking with their children.
Yeah. Navigating the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would be lost without Stronger Together, Never Alone. I'm so grateful that Tracy approached me when Josiah was in YDDC and we were at the vending machine and she
I'll always
said,
love that vending machine.
and she said, hey, she said, I wanted to invite you to one of our moms groups meeting. And I was like, oh my God, I started crying. And so I went and I never left. And I thank God for it because, man, it's a saving grace,
It
right?
is
Navigating
1,000%.
this process.
Yep. I did it for
Oof.
years alone and
Right. I know she did. I don't
did
know
it
how
for
you did
years
it,
alone.
but yeah. Oh, Janice, share with us a little bit about your background.
So I started in treatment. I started at Desert Hills. I did that for a little while, and then I moved on to working at Sequoia, another treatment center. Moved on to YDDC, and then I went to adults correction, and I worked behavioral health there. So I was an officer at YDDC, behavioral health tech at Desert Hills, and then behavioral
Awesome.
health at the prison.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, Robert, tell us a little bit about you.
Um, I started off in the juvenile system in '86, and I kind of worked my way, through the system as a juvenile. '86, I went to uh, a psychiatric ward in Arkansas. Um, and in '87, I went to Alliance in El Paso. And then in '88, I went to Belen, to the Boys Ranch in Belen till '90. And then in '93, I went to YDDC. And then in '94, I went to New Mexico Boys School, Springer. '98, I went to prison. Um, uh, 2001, I went to the feds, federal prison. I got out for a little while, maybe 3 months, picked up another state case. Probably 3 months later, went back to the state. Um, got out in 2010, stayed out for 3 or 4 months, went back again for an 18-year sentence. I did 10 flat on that one. Got out in 2020. Um, went back recently on a self-defense case. Um, got released 6 months ago. Um, and I've been out now in treatment. I've been out for 6 months. I got 5 more months of probation, and that's where I'm at.
Well, I'm super excited for you when you shared that with me earlier, just to know that you have 5 months left and then you can just be liberated, and move on and move forward with your life. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that's what you want to do as well.
Thank you, Kim. Yes. Um, it was unexpected, and I mean, um, there's always different ways of dealing with things, I think, but sometimes things are unexpected, and that's when it's really, decisions really count, in those times, and sometimes we're not expecting, certain things, and it's difficult, when we haven't been out here a while, even when we are doing good, because I can hold down a steady job. I get along well with everybody, but I definitely wish I could have done things differently, but it worked out. I mean, I'm back out here. I'm doing good. I'm in treatment, and I'm happy that I got another chance.
Awesome. Right on. Right on. So, Janice, what initially drew you to work in the carceral system?
I think watching my family go through it at a young age. I had a cousin that was incarcerated when I was 5 years old, and he stayed in contact with me until 24 years later. And I
Wow.
always wanted to understand why. Why did you do what you did? And how was your journey not being with your family and having to be in prison for so long? How are you going to act when you get out? Is everything going to be different? And so I wanted to understand that's when a kid was going through those things. And I wanted to prevent my kids from going through those things.
Right.
So I wanted to get in there and talk with them and understand why they made the choices that they make. And I still do, you know. I may not work in the prison anymore, but I'm going to school so I could be a social worker.
Oh, I love that for you.
Yes,
That's
because I just want to
awesome.
understand.
Yeah,
I want to be a voice for them because sometimes they don't have a voice.
you're right.
So,
And we need you.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
need people like you that
Yeah.
have love and compassion and that are real, right? And I'm sure working in the system, you saw people that were good, that worked there, but you also saw corruption, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. From my first day walking into YDDC, I just remember one of the officers telling me, "Oh, why did you want to start working here? Because you want to make a difference? Because you want to change these kids?" And he said, "Get that out of your head, because these kids are never going to change. These kids are never going to be what you want them to be. So give it up." And they said, "I've been working here for 20 years. I've seen one good kid come out of here. Don't think that you're going to make a difference." So that's what made me want to strive even harder to make a difference. Just for that one kid, you know?
Right.
Just one kid.
I was sharing with my friend today. I said, if through all this advocacy work, even if I don't see a big change right away, I just want to make a dent because even a dent counts, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you have to be optimistic, and you have a heart like somebody like Tracy, me, and all the other moms. Somebody like Robert who's sitting here today because he does want to help our community. So, what was your experience like in YDDC?
It was very short lived because of the environment. I've seen a lot of abuse. I've seen a lot of neglect. I've seen kids crying for help and the staff laughing at them. I remember one of the girls was begging me, "Just help me, just come stand by my door. I don't have nothing. I don't have no one. They took my pictures. That's all I had left." And she's 15, 16 years old. "Just stand by my door and make sure I'm okay." And my supervisor was telling me, "No, don't go over there. Don't look at her." Or other ones that were being antagonized, laughing at the door. "No, no, 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 no. What are you going to do? You're on the other side of the door. What are you
The
going to do?"
staff was doing that to the
The staff were
kids?
doing that to the kids and rallying up the kids. "Look, watch, let me show you how mad I could make them." And then they would make them so angry to the point where you're having to be restrained. And I watched one of the kids get restrained. And when they took her down, they hit her so hard that she was bleeding all over the floor.
Oh my God.
And they said, "Come help me." "No, I'm not going to help you. I'm sorry. You antagonized her. You pushed her to that point, and now you're restraining her and punishing her because you caused that. I'm not going to be a part of that." And they would get upset with me, but I'm not going to feed into those things. I'm sorry. I told you when I came here to help make a difference. I came to help the kids. It doesn't matter what their charges are. They're still human beings. That's
Right.
someone's child. you know.
That's ugh.
Crushes me.
So how did leadership respond when issues were raised internally?
I feel like they took the same approach sometimes. Most of the time, actually. I knew one of the top, and he would say, "Oh, just keep doing what you're doing." There was time when we had to call state police in because it was getting so crazy, and they were kept antagonizing, and that's coming from the top of leadership,
Right.
and it was never support. It was always just keep doing it, just keep doing it.
You know, it's so I have to say this just from my experience. I obviously didn't work at White ADC, but Tracy and I always say, because Josiah never went to JDC, he went to White ADC, and they took him from Estancia because they found out about a juvenile charge that he got charged with, and he had to do, I think it was like 3 months for the juvenile charge. So they shipped him from the adult facility to White ADC, and it was really hard for him, you know, because he went from an adult facility to YDDC, which was very different, right? Because the rules are very different. They're stricter. They can't just pick up the phone and call me whenever you want. Can't just pick up the phone and call Malia whenever he wanted. But Tracy and I talk about, and Tracy's son experienced JDC, which was really horrifying. And my son didn't, but our son, both of them were in YDDC, and we always talk about how, man, you know, I don't really have anything bad to say about YDDC because Josiah never, that I know of anyway, experienced anything bad that he told me about, right? And I guess I was happy to be able to do therapy with him, family therapy every other Thursday. So that was, you know, really healthy for me as well as for Josiah. But we also didn't work there, right? We also didn't see like firsthand what really takes place behind those walls because we know that there is corruption in all the facilities, not just juvenile, but adult facilities as well. So how did you finally just get to a place where you're like, okay, that's it, that's enough, and I'm out of here?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. I got so overwhelmed that I was carrying it home with me. And I was putting in so much time there. I mean, my kids didn't even think that I lived at home anymore because I was always at work.
Right.
And the stress that it caused, I was getting sick from it because I wanted so badly to be a voice, but I wasn't able to. There was nothing I could do.
So you were like oppressed. That's awful.
It was. And that I remember finding out about Josiah, right? And it was do not tell nobody.
I won't.
No, that's what they told me. No, that's what they told me. It was do not tell anybody, you know, don't tell him. Don't tell who he's family to, or don't tell that that's your family, you know.
Right.
And I remember when Ray had passed away, I knew I had to do something right. Imagine being in jail and one of your loved ones passing away.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to talk to the admin and see if I can bring balloons. And it was like, oh, are you favoring him because you're bringing balloons? And I said, no, his loved one passed away. Something, you have to give him something, some way to grieve. He can't go to the
Right.
funeral.
Right.
And so it was an automatic, I could not work near him
Oh my
because they
gosh.
thought that I was favoring him over the other kids. And they thought that I was trying to give him special treatment because I
Wow.
took balloons for him to release. So that's how it was.
Wow. Yeah, it's almost like they think, you know, and I get it. And Tracy and I talk about this all the time, you know, about there's accountability, right, for all of us for anything that we do in life. It could be the smallest thing. If we don't fill our gas tank up, I mean, what are the consequences? I get that's what I meant to say is that there's consequences, right, in everything in life. We don't put gas in our car and our car runs out of gas, we walk, you know, or we have to call a loved one to come rescue us. And as a mom, like with Josiah and, you know, the things that he was doing, there's a long history of why I think things led to where they did. And I truly believe that it started not only the fact that, I was a single mom and worked two jobs, but also the school system, right? It was the prime example of the school to prison pipeline. And I just think that as a mom, you always hope the best. And for me, when Josiah was in YDDC, I was excited because I felt like, oh, he's getting the therapy. When I'd go to therapy with him, I felt like he was really starting to open up and really tell me like things that I never knew. And you think that, oh, okay, well, this place is okay. I'm starting to feel like at peace. I mean, obviously, that working with children, like, of course, like, they're going to get on your nerves and the staff's going to get on your nerves. But like you said, they're still human beings. And who is the staff? Anybody in any type of facility to try and punish them any further than what they're already going through. I mean, they're trying to process the fact that they're even incarcerated, aside from the crime that they committed. And I think, Tracy, you've shared this with me, is that, they can't even, when they're sitting alone with themselves in that cell, it's hard for them to even process what they've done,
Right.
right?
Right.
You've shared that with me lots of times. And Tracy works closely with families and with a lot of the kids that are incarcerated. Do you want to share a little bit about that with us, Trace?
I mean, Timothy recently said, Mom, I still smell gunpowder. I still smell blood from that night. Had to be strong and not lose it. But to think of what my son experienced that night, what happened. And most of these kids, they're struggling. I don't think I realized until Tim moved to YDDC the amount of medication that was given to him at JDC, but I was also super glad of how my son, as he grew older, advocated for himself and worked off of all of the medicine that he was on and played a really active role in it himself.
Right.
Our kids today have so much on their plate, and everybody wants them to be the adults in the room, but it's frustrating.
And we have children that come from broken homes. We have children who were born into survival. We have children who are being abused physically, sexually, emotionally.
Right.
So I mean, as adults, it's hard to process that type of stuff. I mean, it's a prime example from the two little boys
Right.
that had the guns. I think they were, what, 5 and 7,
Or
7
7
and
and
9.
9.
or 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at those two little boys and how afraid they were, and they didn't even trust what should have been. I mean, me growing up, the cop is always a person that's going to save you, right? So you feel safe. I'm just speaking that from my generation when I was a little girl. These little boys didn't trust, and it was evident when you looked at them and they stood there and they're like, no, no, they were not, they don't know what a safe space is. And that's
Or
heartbreaking.
a safe person
Yes.
in their life at all.
Or who they can trust.
Right.
Right. So you just think about the kids, and it comes from all different like walks of life, because a lot of people, you can say like, oh, well, of course that kid's in jail for this, that, and the other. Well, look at the home he comes from. But there's a lot of kids that come from the kid that shot and killed my friend's grandson at Barelas Community Center. He comes from a good home, right? Has a mom and a dad.
Right.
Comes from a good solid home, and he's still getting caught up in the things in the street. Can you tell us a little bit, Janice, about what you see as far as like children? Like, what is the root, what is the core problem, do you feel, with our juveniles?
Well, going back to the 7 and 9-year-old, they're my neighbors. They're my kids' friends.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, I know exactly who they are. I know their mom, and I would ask them, why do you do this? Because I'm bored. That's why I'm bored. And I feel like a lot of the kids, when they're older too, it's because they're bored. They're not getting enough programs from the state to be involved in. They're not getting, the sports are too expensive for the parents to be able to
We
keep
spoke
up with.
about that.
Yeah, and everything is too expensive when you're a single mom sometimes.
Right.
Or even when you're a family with the mom and a dad. It's hard when you live in poverty. And that's exactly how it is for those two little boys. And whenever I would let them come over, I would always tell them too, this is a safe place. I want you to know this is a safe place. You don't have to worry here. You don't have to carry your knives because you have to defend yourself. If you need food, there's always food, you know. And I don't make a lot of money. We don't, but if we can be that safe place for somebody else, we're always going to be,
Right.
you know. And I think that's one of the biggest roots, is being bored.
Right. Robert, coming out of incarceration, and you went in, how old were you the first time you went in?
6.
Are you serious?
Yeah, in 80, I went to
Wow.
psychiatric ward for children when I was 6, in Arkansas in 86. And my stepfather used to take us hostage. My mom remarried another guy from Arkansas, and so we moved from here in New Mexico to Arkansas. And he used to take my mother and us hostage at gunpoint and shoot up the house, kill our animals. Um, and so, I had a lot of anger because I couldn't do nothing to him. I used to, so I used to see all this, and, it was frustrating. And so my mother and us were in and out of battered women homes. And I was real violent at that time because I guess I didn't know how to deal with it, and so they called the police on me one night in 86 from the battered women's home. And at that time I met with a psychologist, or a psychiatrist actually. And she admitted me, because back then the psychiatrist had as much power as a judge back in 86. And they admitted me into a hospital. It was I think it was in Arkadelphia, or I can't remember exactly. I was young. Um, but they admitted me there. I stayed there, I think, for like 6 months. Um, they didn't allow us to have shoes. We were in pajamas, no shoes. And it was basically, if we raised our voice or got any kind of aggression, they would restrain us and put us in padded rooms, and then give us, I think they would shoot us with Seroquel, um, and knock us out. And so I ended up leaving there, and in
On
80,
your own, like, or
no,
oh,
my mother ended up taking me out of
okay.
there. Um, and I think she got in trouble for that years later, um, because I didn't want to go back, because I had they uh they would let you, if you done good, you got like steps, like different steps where you could start to go out with your family to the park and stuff like that after a while. And so I started getting visits with my mother where we could leave. And basically one day I remember telling her I don't want to go back there. And and she basically said, you know what, I'm not going to take you back. And and basically took me, and I was like, thank you, Mom. you know and so we ended up coming back. And um, in 88 I ended up in the boys ranch in Belen, on a commercial burglary charge. A good friend of mine, I won't say names, but him and his brother are actually in the adult system now. But we were basically, going and getting pigeons, and so we used to collect pigeons, and we had actually broke into a building, not even knowing, that we were, breaking in, and we were at the top of the building, taking the pigeons, and we had committed, commercial burglary, which was a B&E, and we, I was, 8 years old at the time, and so they called the fire, the fire department and everybody, and they came and got us and basically charged us with B&E, breaking an entry, and they sent me to New Mexico Boys Ranch on a 2-year commitment, and
At 8 years
Years
old?
old.
at 8.
My God.
And I stayed there for 2 years. I loved it there, though. I mean, it was that was a great place. They showed us how to ride horses. It's I
Well,
mean,
okay, I can agree with you on that. Like that's good programming.
it really was. I enjoyed it. I mean, it had it. I mean, being that young, away from from your family, definitely it affects you. Because you're, I mean, at that age, I look at kids now at that age, and I'm thinking, man, I was probably you know I had the mentality of an 18-year-old when I was 8. I could basically run the streets, and I wouldn't come home sometimes for 3 days, or whatever. My mom would be going nuts. But I mean, I was already grown at that age, and
You really, I mean, enduring what you endured, you had no choice but to grow up, right? Survive. You were in survival mode.
I really was. And, I was actually at that time I was with, I'll say his name, and I don't know if you guys, but his name was Angel Lopez, and he actually was one of the kids here in the state of New Mexico that was tried as an adult when he was 15, and he was sent to the Maine in Santa
Oh
Fe.
my God.
So me and Angel
At
were.
15?
He was the first kid tried in the state of New Mexico and sent to prison at 15. And we were both there at that time in the Boys Ranch together in '88. And he was a good friend of mine. So I got out of there in '90, and I ended up going to White EDC. And a lot of kids that I was with at White EDC were, we're all in. We've all been to prison together. Almost everyone that I was there with at the time. And this was a couple of years later, probably 3 years later, because I was. Well, actually, '92. I was actually waiting in the county to be sentenced, and then went in '93. So I got to White EDC, and White EDC was, I remember they had their segregation unit was called AU, which was adjustment unit, and they used to play elevator music all day, and no
What's the
words.
purpose of that?
They didn't do that when I was
No?
there. No.
Maybe to keep you calm, to
It used to drive
de-escalate.
me nuts, and I think everybody else that was in AU, agreed on that. I mean, it was just
Some weird therapy they thought
Well,
worked then.
because I'm not sure if do you ever go to Canvas?
No.
So I know that in the building, like, because a lot of unhoused people hang out right there at the one Albuquerque building, and they use music to keep them away so they don't stay there. So I'm just wondering, like, that's why I asked. I'm like, what's the purpose of playing that music when you're in
Probably
that
some weird
situation?
therapy that they don't use anymore because it
Yeah,
didn't
because
work.
it didn't work.
it was terrible. I hated it. And then they used to make us either ride a bike, um, or run on a treadmill for 30 minutes. We worked out a lot when I was there. We used to have Super Sunday, and we basically worked out till our legs gave out when I was there. So they would
Did the Army training program.
we d- everyone there at the time in '93 it was mandatory. Everyone
Still
there
is.
Is it?
would work out. I mean, and I mean, daily we would work out daily. And I mean, I'm still like that to this day, you know, I mean, and that was a good thing, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, they would segregate you. I mean, if they found anything in your room, I mean, a toothbrush. You know, if it was a broken toothbrush, it was considered, you know, a knife or you know, a contraband. You know, I mean, anything they believed as a weapon, they'd throw you an AU for. You know, and so you were always in and out of AU. Um, YDDC wasn't nearly as bad as reform school. When I went to reform school a year later in '94, um, a whole different ball game. You know, I mean, there were some bad kids there. You know, and it wasn't you know. At that time, not everyone was being tried as an adult, so it was they were having leniency. So they were sending some kids to Springer, which is New Mexico Boys School, and some to prison. Um, so you had, you know, very bad kids, but you know they called them um, I can't even think right now.
Incorrigible?
No, they called them oh man, I
Trying to
can't
think of
even
terms from
think.
back then.
Well, they had the JCOS, which was almost like a unit manager, but his term was a JCOS. I can't remember exactly what that means right now, but he was basically like the unit manager, and then they had the other staff, but we referred to them by their last name. So whoever was working there, we referred to them by their last name with the Mister on it. So that's how we referred to everyone there. And then they had rovers, which would patrol the perimeter in blazers. Um, but they used to let us fight. Uh, and
They used to let you guys
Oh,
fight?
they used to let us fight. Reform school was a
Oh
bad
my
bad place.
God.
It was a bad place, you know, and basically everyone that I was in the boys' school with, we all went to prison. I mean, everyone I was there with, they either ended up dead or in prison, all of them, and
Wow.
so I still have very good friends that I was there with to this day that they're like family to me, you know what I mean? And very good friends of mine, you know, because I've
So do
never
you feel that the kids that you were with in the boys' school, do you feel that you guys didn't, was there a lack of programming and
definitely
which led, do you feel like they imparted more anger in you guys there?
definitely when I got out of reform school, I was an angry kid. I mean,
And you were already angry. So it's like they did nothing to help you, but to escalate it.
they used to call it dump and burn, and that referred to what they would do is we used to walk in formation in twos, and so we would go to the chow hall, which was the cafeteria, or to education, or to wherever we were going, and basically if they caught us talking, they would say, okay, we're going to Aspen, because they called segregation there was Aspen.
Uh-huh.
They had Aspen and Sequoia. Sequoia was long term and Aspen was short term. And so we would stop in front of AU, and then they would laugh and say, dump and burn. And then they would say, Shanks, fall out of line. And I'd be like, for what? And he'd be like, I heard you talking. And so we'd fall out of line. They'd throw us an AU. And at that time, not an AU in Aspen, and at that time they would take our regular clothes and put us in shorts, a shirt, and flip flops. And they would take our beds at 5 a.m., and we couldn't get our beds back until 5 p.m. and we weren't allowed to sleep, and it was a concrete um, a concrete slab for the bed, and basically we had a Bible, and so if they caught us sleeping, then they would wake us up, or bang on the door, and they would write us up again and keep
Oh my
us,
God.
longer in the hole. And I mean, at that time, it's frustrating when you haven't done nothing, and then you're being punished, and then you're trying to explain this,
On
to
top of
someone,
punishment already. Yeah.
So
and
decades of incarceration, continualized trauma, all the things that they say that they still want to do today. And that's going to make this next group of kids be less involved in crime when none of this has worked. We're back to the 80s.
Right.
And none of that has worked. And so here we are in 2025 and they still are not affording the opportunities for youth to have programming, to have therapy, to have access to addiction, recovery programs, anything. But we just want to keep locking them all up.
Right.
But if we just gave some love, some support, some programming, some strong education with teachers that care, and we could have a whole different world for our kids.
I'm mind blown.
I think even just sitting there and listening, just listen
Right.
to their story
Right.
and listen to what they've been through so they can feel heard, It's just
Right.
just that little bit can go a long
Teenage
way.
boys have such anger issues, especially when there's been trauma or loss or
Right.
whatever the story is, and they don't know how to channel it or help it, and then they're put in a facility, and then staff is antagonizing him. I am blessed that my child somehow navigated to great people at both facilities that taught him how to control his anger, taught him how to prepare for this step in prison, and helped him, gave him the opportunity to like tell other staff to back off, like let him calm down, leave him alone. You're pushing his buttons. He will calm down. Watch him.
Yeah.
But those were few and far people.
Yeah. Janice, did you ever face retaliation or threats from anyone when you worked there in juvenile facilities?
As far as staff or as far as kids? I'm like,
Staff.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Working in adults. Um, I think I was more afraid of the officers than I were the inmates. And I worked in behavioral health. I wasn't even an officer. So I was talking to one of the other behavioral health people, and I was just kind of letting her know who my family was, right? You know who my family is.
Yeah.
She's like, oh no, you need to go tell them. You need to go tell STIU. And I'm like, why does it matter what I tell STIU? And she ended up telling one of the officers. And he brought me into his office, closed the door, and he's like, you tell me everybody. Every one of your family members.
What? They
And
interrogated
they
you like that?
interrogated me. And it was so bad to the point where I was being followed on the cameras. My phone calls were being listened to. Other facilities were being notified that I had family members that were in prison before, that I've had family members that were in gangs, that I was visiting a cousin that was in prison previously, and it was block everybody. Anybody who has the same last name, block them from being able to contact her. And I never even had contact with these family members. I just knew who they were, and I had to be blocked from every single one of their phones, every single one of their tablets, and it was like so scary because as soon as the conversation was done with the STIU officer, he's like, I just wanted to let you know that I always have an open door. No, you don't. You just interrogated me. You told me things about my life that nobody else knows because you've been listening to my phone calls. Very, very personal things about my own mental health, about my own struggles and my journeys that I've gone through, and you laid it out right in front of me and other officers. And now you want to tell me that you have an open door? and I can trust in you. No,
Wow.
no.
You know, Courtney, with Millions for Prisoners, I'm not sure if you know her or not. She actually worked in Santa Fe in the library. And she said the same exact thing that you just said, that she was more afraid of the COs than she was the inmates. And she was threatened. She left and she was threatened
Oh yeah, I'm
by
sure.
correctional officers
Yep.
as well. Do you want to share a little bit with us about anything that you experienced other than what you just shared, that you feel is just like complete corruption, inhumane? Um,
There's just so much. I mean, I
yeah,
could sit here and talk all day about it, but um another thing is like putting, like he said, going to AU, right? Or whatever pod that was segregation. I feel like a lot of times the inmates are put into segregation and they're forgotten about.
oh my,
Because in the prison system, there's only a certain amount of time you're supposed to be in segregation, right?
right.
Because
Not more than 30 days,
yes, it
correct?
starts to mess with your mental health,
Yeah.
and and some people are left in there 3 or 4 months. But for what? They did their 30 days and they're just left to rot, and
That happened to Josiah when he was in Los Lunas. They put him in segregation. And once his 30 days came, they hadn't let him out. So I called the front desk and then I kept calling. Let me talk to the warden. Let me talk to who's in charge. Nobody would return my calls. Nobody would take my calls. So I got in my car and I drove down there and to the guard shack. And he said, what can I help you with? I said, and I told him my story. I said, look, my kid's in segregation. I've been trying to call you guys. You guys don't return my phone calls. Nobody's answering my calls. I'm left on hold. I said, I am not leaving until somebody talks to me. And he said, you can't just show up here. And I said, the fuck if I can't.
yeah,
I'm not leaving.
good.
So he got somebody on the phone and I told the warden, I said, you are in complete, you are breaking every rule right now. And I will make a phone call to Santa Fe. My son was out of segregation within 15 minutes.
And what happens when the inmates don't have family members like
Right.
you
I
to
know.
fight for them, to
There's
be
so
that
many
voice,
that
Right.
don't have that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've seen restraints, right, with kids where a supervisor goes in to put handcuffs and purposely knees the kid in the face because he doesn't like her.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my
And the
God.
kid's like, "You did that on purpose." "Oh, F you. Shut up. Shut your mouth." And then come out of the restraint and be like, "Did you see what I just did? I got her good, huh?" And I'm like, and these are kids that are like suicidal.
We go back to the same story of why are teachers teachers when they don't want to help children succeed and be and understand school and succeed at it? Why are you in corrections? I understand that some people can never. I just don't understand how you think it's funny to traumatize a kid who's already super traumatized or a grown man that is trying to just do his best and get to the end and get back home. Why you have to.
And how do you even like look at yourself in the mirror knowing that you're treating a human being like that? Like, who are you to punish this person? This person's already being punished. That's why they're incarcerated. Like, who are you to try to inflict more pain or more anything on them? You know?
Everybody's coming home one day.
Yeah.
They're all coming home. And you're not helping to help them. Here we sit.
Yeah, it's a.
6 years old. How old are you now?
I'm 46.
So for 40 years, you've
It's
lived this system.
it's a form of just trying to degrade you, and I mean, this when I got out in 2020, I did 7 years in segregation. I was at the north and the south, and I basically had to file a habeas corpus. And I had a nice guy from the habeas corpus unit named Michael Tucker that took my habeas, and my habeas went through and forced them to eventually let me out. Um, and they eventually let me out. but an incident had happened, a serious incident, and they kept us locked down um, for another uh, 2 years with 3-man escort um, at the time. But I mean, it was, handcuffed in your boxers when you go to the shower, handcuffed when you come back from the shower, handcuffed to the strip cage, strip you completely naked, get dressed, handcuff you to the bullpens, the cages that we call rec, um, and basically the same routine back. And that was every day. Anytime you left, you were stripped, completely naked, um, searched, and then took. And then they have it's almost like a collar. It connects to the handcuffs, almost like a dog collar. And so, basically like an animal. So when you come out, you back up out of the cell, and they have these um, almost like a leash on the handcuffs. I mean,
Oh my God.
it's lots to deal with. I mean, I've seen a lot of people just lose it, after 4 or 5 years in seg, where they'd start cutting themselves, hanging themselves. You know, uh, you really got to be headstrong to make it. And I'm just glad that finally, I think there was, um, there were guys that had done a lot longer than me in seg. I mean, that wasn't shit. You had some guys 20 years. I mean, and you got to take your hat off to someone that's went through that, especially when you've went through it, and know you know how it affects you. My
How it
sleeping.
affects you, and how the hell do they think that people are going to get out and be productive citizens of this community when they offer jack shit to the people behind the walls and they treat them like this?
How is that justice? How is that a solution to change any of what? It's all just a political system. It's frustrating.
Well, it even goes down to their food. I mean,
Oh,
the boxes of their food say not for human consumption on
I
them.
know.
I mean,
Oh
like,
my
what?
God.
I, what did-
The boxes of their food, people,
Of the meat.
yeah.
It does.
says
It says
not
not for
for
human.
human consumption. Okay. And a lot of people, and we've heard this so many times, Tracy, and I'm sure you guys have too. Well, they're in prison. What do they think? They're at a resort. They're at a spa. They committed a crime. Like, yeah, we know that, asshole. But here's the thing: they're still human beings. And you know what? Before you want to say all those things, you better be careful, because that shit will come knocking on your door, just like it came knocking on my door. Never in a million years.
Say it can't happen to me.
Yes, never in a million years did I think any of my children would go to prison, ever. My brother did a lot of time, but never did I think any of my kids would ever go to prison, because I tried so hard to steer them in a different direction. I tried so hard to keep them, here, there, and not here. And it's humbling. It's humbling, because I think I shared this with you when you and I had a conversation yesterday about today's podcast. Is I used to say, like, when my brother would go, my brother was in and out of prison, and my mom and dad put a lot of attention towards him because he was an addict, and then also going in and out. And I used to get really bitter about it. And then I got this bitterness where I'd say, like, well, I'd be like people we hear or see on comments on what we don't like, ABQ Raw. But, saying just mean comments like, oh, they need to, they did the crime, they need to do the time, and they can rot in there. And I mean, I didn't say mean things like that, but I was like, well, they deserve it. They deserve to be there. And my brother keeps messing up, so he deserves to be there. I never thought the way that I think today, because it visited my front door. Now this shit is personal, you know? And I do have compassion, because a lot of kids do come from situations. I'm sitting here while you're talking and I'm like, 6 years old, like you had to process abuse, and not just abuse, but mental, emotional, physical. Like, how does a
But then he
6 year
was
old,
treated as a
yes,
criminal at 6 years old
already,
because he was a victim.
yes, yes,
Because we can't get the right mentality on how to help people heal. We're just about punishing.
I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted at
And then a lot of times their mind is like, well, you already look at me like that, so I might as well be that.
exactly.
You know, you already think I'm a thief, I might as well be one, you know?
Right.
And I saw that a lot. I saw that. Or like, what do you expect? I seen girls take things and they're like, what do you expect? I'm a felon, remember? I'm a
Right.
criminal. So
Right.
I'm just painting the picture that you want to see, right?
My son went to a pretty decent middle school. He was struggling. His father's death, his friends passing. He was smoking way too much weed. He was struggling in school. Instead of the teachers calling me and saying, hey, Timothy's showing up to school and he's high as shit, his math teacher's in the back of the school fighting him.
Oh my God.
Instead of, let's all sit down and let's figure out a solution to help this kid
have an
deal with his
intervention.
grief and help him succeed and move forward. No, I'm going to fight you in the parking lot. Like, let's fight a 14-year-old. That's why I don't understand why people are teachers.
I have the same issue. I have the same issue with APS. And you know, like Chris said when we did a podcast with Chris Herrera, you know, he said there were good teachers, or there were good staff at wherever he did time. I don't know if
He was at JDC.
At JDC. Like there were good people, a few, very
Right.
few.
I said that. Yes.
Very few, but there were. And you know, here's the thing: is Josiah experienced the same thing, right? In middle school and even in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the teachers and with the staff, and there was good ones. He did have a good principal at Madison that really tried to help him and advocate for him as well. But I also feel that once they mark a kid,
Yep.
it's almost like it's just inevitable to remove that from them. And I'm sure that it's like that behind the walls, right?
It really is. Or if you have like a confrontation or something happens where you physically assault one, like we were talking earlier, I picked up an assault on Abraham Gallardo and Jason Ellis. I was charged for assaulting them, and but they attacked me. They attacked me first, so I defended myself, but I was still street charged over it. But I mean, it didn't stop there. It was, once you do that to one, then the rest retaliate. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so,
And that happened to Josiah at the jail as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I understand that. Janice, going back to the food thing real quick, I wanted to say that when Josiah was in Los Lunas, I remember him calling me one night and saying, Mom, there's maggots
Oh, yeah.
in the food. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, there's maggots, and there's maggots in the kitchen. There's maggots in the food. One of the guys that he was locked up with in his pod, I guess he helped like transport the food from wherever it's at. There was maggots in the food van.
that's awful.
I believe
And
it.
it's sometimes it's like that.
And there was leeches in the shower.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, when my cousin came home after that 24 years or whatever, he had to get surgery on his stomach because of the food. Because his stomach was so bad.
And a lot of them got H. pylori too in Grants. Was it Grants?
Yeah.
And the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just I'm really like right now I'm seriously like at a loss for words in a way that I can't believe. And here we have people talking about, you know, these fucking youth and these people and they need to rot and they need this and they need that and they need to stay behind. Yeah, but like Tracy said, they're gonna get out one day, you know, and they give our people no type of programming, no type of rehabilitation. My son is in 23-hour lockdown right now as we speak. And I called and I said, well, what about like therapy? Like, what type of therapy are you giving him while he's in there? What type of mental health services are you giving him while he's in there? Is he allowed to have books? Can I buy him books? No, you can't buy him books. Okay, so what type of materials are you providing for him while he's in there? You know, because I mean, I already spend $50 a week just trying to communicate with him through the Messenger
So
app.
here we go back to the same thing. They want to punish locking someone in a cage for 23 hours a day is going to teach them to do what? And now we even have a generation of kids. I know when Tim was in elementary school, they'd say, well, we're going to take your recess away if you don't finish that paper. Fine. And these youth, they're like, okay, do whatever.
Right.
Because that's not what they need. That's not, so you battle them, they're going to battle you back.
Right.
And we have our district attorney saying, since he's been district attorney, he's prosecuted 50 juveniles for 70 homicides. How many teenagers live in the city of Albuquerque alone? So what percentage is that? Is that a crime epidemic?
This is the thing. The state of New Mexico doesn't believe in rehabilitation. I mean, in our prisons, you know, even when I was in juvenile, the way the prisons are set up, there's nothing for any inmate, to get um, any kind of rehabilitation, to get housing, work, so forth, so on. Basically, you do your time, you get $50 gate money, and you get out of here. And the thing with that is they were having a problem with that here in Albuquerque. I was seeing they were having like a 70% return rate of nonviolent offenders. So the jails were packed, and they were saying, okay, we need to figure something out. Well, if they cut that by 10% of people returning, that's $40 million a year. So if they learn to cut 10% off of nonviolent, 40% of violent are going back within a 3-year period with a new offense, you know, and committing a violent crime. But 10% of violent or nonviolent would save the city of Albuquerque $40 million. So, I mean,
Wow.
if they started a rehabilitation program in any prison, I mean, it's not going to cost $40 million. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, you know, crazy.
It's not hard solutions.
I know.
It's really
Jesus.
not hard solutions to help fix. The services that my son got, that I got from outside facilities going in, especially when he was first at JDC, were amazing. Working PTSD programs with him, mental health programs, helping him address his anger, giving him resources and tools on how to de-escalate and do all those things. Now he sits in DOC and he's thankful that he has those few tools, but his mind is exhausted right now. I truly think, he's just like counting the days of till I get home.
Right.
But why we have kids now going back into prison before they're 18 and sitting in Los Lunas until they turn 18. Thank God they're not sending them to prison at 15 anymore. But we expect them to go into the worst living civilization and fix themselves and come out the best. And I don't know what planet they think we all live on.
Can I speak on
Yes,
that?
Yes.
Well,
please.
there is still youth that are going in and into adult prisons, because while I was there in Los Lunas, we did have a 16-year-old and we just kept him hush hush, right? He was in SEG He was in
Yeah, that's
yellows.
what they're doing
You
until they
know, keep him where nobody can see him
until he turns 18.
until he turns 18.
Right.
When he wants to cross the yard, don't let anybody else come out. You
Yeah,
know,
we had
we'll,
several
we'll
kids
have
that
10
happened to.
guards taking him to protect him, right? So it's still happening. And working in mental and behavioral health in the men's prison, it's not what you would think, right? I thought I was going to go in there and we were going to do counseling with these inmates and we were going to do group. I was there, I don't even know how long. I never ran one group. And we were supposed to do it weekly. I never ran one group. I used to make crossword puzzles, coloring pages, um, stupid shit. Like, why am I giving a grown man a coloring page for behavioral health and mental health? And we would go in, and the other staff would be like,
That's true, though.
yeah,
It
it's
is
true. Like,
true.
why? And you give them to them, and they're like, what do you think I am, a
What do you want me to
child?
do with this?
Yeah, like, and you don't even give them a pen. You don't give them a pencil. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Stare at it? And they would look at us like we were dumb. And I felt dumb. And I'm making hundreds of packs a week. And then you're supposed to do your pod walkthroughs. And, oh, how's your mental health? Well, I'm in prison. How do you think my mental health is? And I'm like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? And they would just look at me like, Miss, what are you doing here? Why are you doing this? And that's whenever I realized too, like, this is wrong. It's
So
corrupt.
there isn't any type of programming, even in the
No,
behavioral health.
no. I mean, we would pull them in and we'd be like, "Do you feel like you're suicidal?" No, they already know what to say.
So
If
that's the
if
so that's
I,
the gist of it. You
yeah,
did your job for the day because you asked
yeah,
somebody if they're suicidal.
exactly. And they're like, Miss, if I tell you the truth, you're gonna put me on watch. Do I want a camera watching me 24/7? I'm not gonna tell you. And they couldn't ever be honest with you because it's put them in seg, put a camera on them, and make sure they don't kill themselves.
But
It
other
was
than
no
that, we don't want to deal with them.
exactly. And the therapist would be like, please make sure they're not really suicidal because I don't want to put them on watch because then I have to do all the paperwork. And you're like, really? You're not truly, genuinely concerned if this person is going to take their life.
I just don't understand.
Why can't do you feel that when you were in prison and your pod was allowed to like have a group and you guys all talk together, even if you didn't have somebody as awesome as her or a mental health therapist, if you guys were able to do your own programming, your own therapy with each other, which you probably did, that's kind of dumb. I need to redirect this. But if you had somebody like her, I guess is what I should say, and you were able to do those kind of things, would it have been beneficial?
Um, yeah, I mean, if they had the programming, I'm sure,
There's
all
always
of
going to
us
be
would have
some
took.
people that'll say no, but the majority I think would, right?
I'm sure everyone would have took whatever they had, I mean, but it's very limited. And what they use, see, what prison gets away with and what a lot of people don't understand is they're covered by saying anything that's considered a security threat, they're basically able to do whatever they want, and nobody could do nothing about it because basically they say, "Oh well, he's a security threat," or "Look at his jacket, he hangs around with this so and so or these people or blah blah blah," and so um, it's based on that. It's based on who blah blah blah. We're trying to protect our facility, and basically, they get away with whatever they want, and so, um, they treat people, bad, depending on who they know or where they're from. And they don't even have hard facts on a lot of that stuff, and they get away with it. Um, they keep people, like I say, before they started the lockdown for 30 days, because they barely passed that a couple of years back.
Right.
um, but basically, they got away with years for leaving people incarcerated, 23 hours a day, 1 hour a rec a day and a shower. They got away with that for years and years of doing people like that. And finally they got tired of it because people were getting out here. They were, losing their mind in there. They were getting out to the streets, and they were committing, more crime, violent crime, because they were mentally disturbed from it.
Well, and
You
not
know,
only that, like the PTSD, I can't believe, I mean, I can't even imagine what the PTSD is like when you get out of being locked up for so long in there. Like, what tools did you use personally, Robert, to maintain as much sanity as possible?
a lot of God.
Yeah, that's my son
A
too.
lot of God, and a lot of working out, and I love God, and I mean, I got very heavy in the Bible, and you know, you know, um, so that helped me tremendously. Working out, reading, I read a lot. I,
Takes you out of that
it
place.
really did. So I stayed as busy as possible. Um, I learned a lot of different things that benefited me. Drawing, reading. So anything that I can learn something, I done. Um, but I mean, if you allow just yourself to sit there in idle time, it'll drive you crazy.
If you guys could reinvent the prison system, would we be more successful?
Wow, that's a great question.
You know,
JC?
you know, um, as crazy as this may sound, and um, if you just let people in prison police themselves, I mean, um, it's you know prison is a dangerous place, but I mean, if you let people police themselves, you wouldn't have child molesters running around, rapists on the streets. You wouldn't have old people getting mugged and robbed. All of those things you wouldn't have going on like they're going on now. The state of New Mexico is, they have a safe haven for child molesters and rapists in certain prisons, in low minimum security prisons, where they're able to go and live comfortably after attacking a child or raping a woman, which I believe is insane. And to put them in a category of someone else, um, that's never done any bullshit like that, I believe is bullshit. And so um, that's how they've done the prison system in New Mexico, is they've used um, threat to security, different supposed gangs and stuff like that, to um, slam them down or to keep them in a high level security, and then allow child molesters and rapists out at minimum facilities to roam free, um, and basically get away with whatever they want, um, because they say that they're nonviolent. And I mean, look at the havoc that they cause on society when they get out. I mean, come on, you know?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I could see like that stemming, okay, because we have a lot of kids who have been, sexually abused that end up becoming very angry, or they commit crimes because of the violations that have been put upon them, and then they become a criminal.
Hmm.
What the state may want to call them, but it's just I'm just so like going back to the let's go back to what you said when you went to, was it the boys ranch? What did you say that you rode horses
The
and
Boys Ranch in
okay,
Berlin.
so let's hypothetically say that they created an atmosphere like that, or like camps, because I know California has fire camps, right? They create places like that, where, or like Norway has a very low recidivism rate
Right.
because their prisons are more like dormitories. if they created that type of facilities here in New Mexico, do you think that it would be different? The environment, the
Def-
recidivism rate?
Definitely. I think um, even people that they consider, gang members and they use as a threat to security. I've lived with, you know, a lot of different guys, that have been down for 30 plus years. And some of them I've been there with for 25 plus years, and um, they're not the same person as they first went in 25 years, 26 years later. You know, prison changes you. I don't care who you are, what you've
No.
done. After so many years of being in prison, it breaks your spirit. I don't care who you are or what. You're not um, the person you were when you were 18, when you were 20, when you were 25,
I
you
think
know.
that's the hardest thing as a mom, and I'm sure Tracy, you can agree with that, is that when I think about Josiah, I think like I'm not gonna get back my kid that went in, right? But then I think I want to be optimistic and say, no, I'm going to get back a better kid because he's really like reading his Bible, and my kids were raised in church. And
That's very good.
Josiah's grandpa, you probably know his grandpa Porky.
That is my friend from
Really?
California. He used to
Yes.
go visit us in the
Yeah, that's
D
my
home. I haven't seen him in
I
a
used to go in the
long
D
time.
home with him.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him
So
in years, man.
so my son's grandfather did prison ministry. And I think like, okay, God, like I'm going to believe that my son is in the belly of the whale like Jonah. And I'm going to believe that you are sharpening him and that he's going to pick up where his grandfather left off. And all this story and all this time that he's doing is not in vain.
Right.
And that's how I get through that's how I get through my day, because
Leave it in God's hands. That's very
yes.
good.
Yes.
That's strong. That's strong faith. That's good. Very good. You know, faith is, I'm a firm believer in God. I have faith too. You know, it helped me for a lot of years.
Yeah. Janice, going back. Let's go back. I'm like, we got to go back. Um, what did working in the adult facility, and I'm not saying juvenile or adult, one's better than the other because neither are good. But did you experience worse in the adult facility than you did in juvenile?
No.
It's juvenile.
Juvenile.
So, and here's the issue that I have with that is that here are kids, right, that you are setting the foundation for them. They're already processing something that a kid at their age can't even process without the proper mental health. But then, you have these kids and you can help. I mean, some of these children can be saved. Some of these children can get through, things that they've faced on the outside and for the crime that they've committed that has led them to their incarceration. But then I hear you say these stories about how the staff treats them, and how are they supposed to, it's like they're just dropping like these seeds in their head to make them worse. Like, here's another seed, here's another seed, here's another seed, there's nothing good that comes out of that. It's like living with abusive parents, with
Oh,
parents who mentally abuse you.
yeah. I agree. I think a lot of times too is they want them to go to prison because they don't want them to be on the streets. Or they hope that whenever they go home that something bad's going to happen to them. Like I've heard some of the officers say as soon as they go home they're going to get killed and that's probably where they deserve to be. You know.
Wow.
And I don't know, I just yeah, it's way worse.
Did you
It's way,
did you ever see anybody be held accountable for their actions?
as officers?
Uh-huh.
No. No.
No.
No. I just feel like it's so much more that way than it is in a healthy way, that it's not even bad to them. It's not wrong,
And
you
and
know?
and it, like, do these children not tell their parents, like, if they have parents who are involved, like somebody like me who advocates for their son, like, were there a lot of parents like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And did they ever say anything, or like did their kids ever tell them, or were they afraid of retaliation?
No, I would have, because I worked in the girls unit.
Uh-huh.
So the girls would be like, this one did this to me, this one did that to me. And I would have some of the parents are like, wait until you step out of work one day, and I'm gonna beat your ass. Just let me know
Wow.
what she looks like. And there was officers that had to leave work late sometimes because they were afraid that one of the parents was gonna come retaliate against them.
And
But
they weren't held
they were
accountable?
not held accountable. No, they were never held accountable. I've
Wow.
seen it so many times. I still have parents to this day that try to contact me, and they thank me for helping their kids, and uh or just trying to vent to me about the experience that their kids had because it was so traumatic. It's so sad.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Robert, can you, we're going to be coming to an end. Is there something, a specific time, place, or story you feel that you want to share on this platform today about inhumane conditions or corruption behind the walls? Is there a story that comes to mind that you'd like to share with us today?
Um, I think I may have told you this, but I had a really good friend um, that died a while back. And he was an older man. He had been in prison for over almost 45 years um, on an aggravated assault. Um, and they gave him, under the statutes, New Mexico statutes back in the 70s, they gave him a 10 to 50. Um, an aggravated assault nowadays carries a 3-year sentence. So he was on indefinite parole. Um, he had been down since the 70s, was in the Santa Fe riots. Um, and I was recently with him, probably um, about 5 years ago. And they still had him on the 10 to 50 for the aggravated assault 45
Wow.
years later. And he was on a violation because they found a beer can in his front yard. And he basically couldn't walk. Um, he had blood clots all in his legs. He had no filling in his legs. Um, and he was in bad shape. So they basically had him as a security threat, and they kept him locked down um, with everybody that was 5'4" that couldn't be released to lower security levels because they said he was. I don't know. He was, like I say, he was 73 years old. He couldn't even walk. And they were basically saying he was a security threat. And so I helped him write a downward departure. Um, and he was a good friend of mine by the name of Dan Sanchez. Um, but like I say, he passed away a couple of years ago. But I just think it was just, you know, inhumane the way that they treated him for as long as they treated him. Um, and I just don't see how they could get away with keeping someone in prison for that long. Because he basically was robbed for damn near 50 years of his life.
Right.
But we got him a downward departure, thankfully, so he got to get out. And I think he stayed out for like 8 months before they found out that he had brain cancer, and he died out here on the streets. But he was a very good friend of mine, and we tried to write the governor, we tried to write everybody to try to get his case overturned. And they basically wouldn't overturn his case because of the fact that supposedly he was like the last one left. You know, that was a letter that we got in return from, trying to get that done. And yeah, so I just, I think of that, and I just think, how inhumane that they treated him. You know. Um, for that long, you know, and then to have to be on indefinite parole at that age
Right.
for, I mean, a life sentence here is 30 years, and I mean, uh, for a 3-year sentence, in the 70s, I mean, I get it, the laws were different. Um, but it just goes to show that some things they just let fly. They let it just exceed the laws that they already have in place. And that was a prime example of something that was just I couldn't understand it. But
Right.
it affected me. It really affected my heart. The way I felt about the whole penal system. I think they failed that man.
Right.
But
But not surprising, right?
not surprising at all.
Uh,
Ginny, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's another thing that affected me as well is watching these people that have served life sentences plus, and they're laying in a hospital bed dying
Dying.
without their family. Like they're already dying. Let them go home.
Yeah.
Let them have their last moments with their
Right.
family. They've already missed their whole life with them.
Right.
And it's just hard to comprehend and to grasp.
Janice, I am so grateful that, for your willingness and your vulnerability and just how brave that you sat here tonight and you helped not only dozens of, hundreds and thousands of people behind the walls, but my son personally. And that means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And I want to leave this table tonight with each one of you. And Janice, I think what I want you to say is I want you to make it very clear to family members, to parents that have people who are incarcerated, and just speak a few words about how important it is to be a voice for them.
Yeah, it's just that clear. Don't give up. Don't stop trying. Don't stop supporting. No matter how hard it gets, physically, emotionally, mentally, but you have to be their voice because they will never have a voice behind those walls ever. And they need you. And it's going to get to a point where you feel like you have nothing left in you, but they are all you have, and you are all they have.
Right,
And they need that.
right.
So if I can be a voice,
Yeah,
all of you guys can be a voice.
yes, absolutely. And Robert, what would you what would you say to family members, to moms, to dads, to parents, um, in supporting someone behind the walls?
um, that sometimes it's rough. It's rough, and but um, they need family. It's important to be there for whoever you have in there, because sometimes you're all they got. And they're not going to sit there and tell you a lot of things that are going on in there. So um, it's important to pay attention, and to be there for them, um, a lot of you know a lot of kids I try to tell that that are out here running around on the streets and they're doing whatever it is they're doing. I try to tell them at the end of the day, um, when you are in there, the only people that you do have are the people that love you, your
Yeah.
mother, your father, you know what I mean, your sisters, you know. Um, and so they're the most important people in your life, and so a lot of people don't realize that until you are in a situation like that. They're the only ones that are there in your corner with you, and it's very important. Family is everything, so everyone's got to stick together, man.
Right. Takes a tribe
It really does.
and the community, right? And that's why we sit here and we want people to hear our voices. We want people to know the truth about what happens in facilities, right?
Yep.
Not just, oh, they go to prison and, like, yes, they're okay, there's consequences and they're paying those consequences, right? They're already doing that. But anything beyond that is not for correctional officers, for administration, for nobody to hold against them. And they're treating our people like that, feeding them food that says not for human consumption. Like, I'm stuck on that. I'm sorry, but I'm
All
really stuck on that.
all of the meat is actually not for human consumption. So all of the meat that they're using, it actually comes on the boxes,
Yeah.
not for you. I mean, it's terrible shit. I mean, you basically got to pull that shit out of your food. It's so bad. Um, yeah, it is bad. You know.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for, sharing your heart, sharing truth, bringing awareness to what really goes on
Yeah.
behind prison walls and how our people are treated, how corrupt corrections, the Department of Corrections can be. And like we said earlier, there are those good ones.
Yeah.
There are good people. It's not everybody. But, I remember my son Ryan's dad saying, we're only as strong as our weakest link. He used to always say that. And that's the way it is in there too, right? Because look at you, Janice. You're an amazing human being. You were there for all the right reasons. You were there because you wanted to instill love and you wanted to impart, you know, acceptance and show these children.
Create healing.
Yes, exactly. You were one of those good ones, but they're very few and far between.
But they didn't
Make it
want to
very
give you
hard,
that
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
They didn't
They
want to
make it
give you the
impossible.
place to make a change,
Yeah.
to create healing and love and support for the kids and adults. Like, you are abnormal, but we
Yeah.
want you and others like you to be the norm.
Yes, absolutely. Trace, can you just share with our audience our contact information for Stronger Together, Never Alone, and maybe just give them a little rundown real quick before we close?
Like what, our Facebook? And
Yeah.
So we're on Facebook, Stronger Together, Never Alone. Send an invite and answer our questions, please, because we keep our people safe.
Yes.
It's not a public page. And then once you leave us a message, we'll be in touch.
And there's amazing, amazing support in Stronger Together, Never Alone.
We're a big body.
Yes,
with many parts.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the emotional support is just beyond. You don't feel alone anymore. Because I remember when Josiah first turned himself in, I just felt so alone. Even though I had Ray, I had Ray's support. as a mom, there's just something about the support of other mothers because they know exactly what you're going through. The dad, yeah, but the mom is connected to, the mom is like connected.
We still want dads to come to group.
Yeah.
Chris needs
Yes.
other men to come
Yes.
to support group.
Yes, you're absolutely
So-
right. You're absolutely right. So Stronger Together, Never Alone. You can find us on Facebook.
If your
Also,
children are in the detention
yes.
center, there's information in the visiting room on how to contact us as well.
Right. Well, thank you guys for being here, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
being such an amazing asset to our community.
Thanks for giving us the space, Kim,
Yes.
always.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, guys.